on YouTube, so be mindful of your words, I guess, if you have any controversial opinions. But you guys are live now, and you may begin your meeting whenever you like.
Okay. Did you want to tell anybody about raising hands or any of that?
Oh, yeah. So if we have anyone in the public tonight, it will be *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rusty Rossman. I'm chairing the meeting, and with us this evening is Bob Masterly, Rick Sovell, Bill McKeever, and me. And Clarence, if he's lucky, is in Hawaii, but I don't know if he's that lucky. I lost the picture. The first order of business this morning is this evening is the approval of the meeting agenda for January 28th, 2021. And because we're on Zoom, we need to do a roll call. So may I please have a motion to approve the meeting agenda for tonight?
Move approval of the agenda.
Hi there. That was from Rick. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, and that's from, was that
Bob.
Bill McKeever? Oh, from Bob Masterly. Okay, and Bill McKeever. And all those in favor, I'll start with me, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Good, we did that. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from November 19th, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as included in our packet? If not, the chair will call for a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as sent out.
Okay, thank you. I need a second. Okay, that was from Rick. All right, I'll start again. Rusty, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, we did that. All right, public discussion. Is there anything that anybody would like to talk about from the public?
Yes, I do have a hand up. It is from number 1098. Again, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
I want to remind everyone that we are going to have a public hearing specific to the Zerbos petition. So this would be an opportunity for anyone from the public to discuss anything that's not part of that public hearing. When we get to that public hearing, that's when they can discuss that particular item.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have the caller on 1098. You are unmuted if you'd like to speak. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Bennett Lublin, and I believe I'm going to be speaking on the Zerbos applicant.
Okay.
And therefore I am unmuted early.
Oh,
so I will speak then.
We'll speak to you a
Thank
little
you.
later. Thank you, Bennett.
Thank you, Rusty.
You're welcome. If there are no other members of the public, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting. All right, an update on matters on activities in Commerce Township. And Rick, as our representative from the Board of Trustees, would you begin, please?
Sure. So Fire Station 3 on Welch Road has been torn down as we're in the process of rebuilding it. The fire trucks have been moved out to the Walled Lake City Fire Department Station on Maple Road, so we're working out of that location.
That's very nice.
Also, unfortunately, last week we had Mark Stacy, our downtown development director, passed away. We had a meeting last Tuesday this week, and then also about an hour ago, the DDA met, and we both have approved Deb Watson, who's sitting in the meeting right now, to be the interim DDA director for the next 90 days. And then during that time, both boards will decide if she's going to be the permanent DDA director or what our other options are. So she's going to be wearing multiple hats for the next 90 days.
She can do it.
So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. The next item, I'm going to turn now to Bill McKeever. What's going on the Planning Commission, Bill?
At our last meeting, we approved the special use and the site plan for an 84 Pioneer Drive at the old marine repair shop.
Nice.
location. That's at 4158 Pioneer Drive, and the 2 lots north. So that was our agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, are there any, I'll close that portion. Is there any old business? If not, I'm going to talk about new business. First, I want to tell everybody in attendance that every board member has physically been to the property in question. And if any of us had any other questions, we spoke with Paula, Jay, and or Dave. So we're up to the minute on what it is that you're asking for and what it is that the ordinance allows. I would like to share some very specific information with you. Give me a half a second to reach the right thing. What happened to it? Only when you're in a hurry, guys. Give me a second. Here it is. All right, this evening in front of us is a sign request. And let me read this to you. The board has very specific things they must consider when making a motion. Before making a motion to approve or to deny one or more sign exemptions, we must consider all of the following for each exemption sought. 1, a conforming sign would create a dangerous condition. Does the exception make the sign safer, and if so, how? Number 2, a conforming sign would not be visible to passing motorists. Why would a conforming sign not be visible, and what kind of an exception do you expect to remedy the problem? 3, a conforming sign would require significant tree removal or topographic changes. 4, an exception to the height and or area requirements of the ordinance would allow the sign to blend with its surroundings. What about the design and development of the building, site frontage, or neighborhood supports an exemption from the height or area standards? How does the exemption cause the sign to be more in scale with its surroundings? 5, granting the exception would not be adverse to the character or appearance of the surrounding buildings, properties, or neighborhoods. Persuade us that granting the exception won't cause the sign to be out of place in its surroundings. 6, the requested exception is the least necessary to reasonably accomplish the sign's purpose. What requirements of a conforming sign prohibit the fulfillment of the sign's purpose and why? And will a lesser exemption from the ordinance work for you? And lastly, excuse me, the purpose and intent of the sign ordinance is to preserve the aesthetics, natural surroundings, and public safety of the area. And the exception will not result in a sign that is significantly contrary to this intent and purpose. Persuade us that granting this exception will not create a significant conflict with the intent and purpose of the ordinance. Persuade us that granting this exception will not result in a sign that is significantly more inconsistent with surroundings than a sign without the exemptions. Are there any questions to what I just read? All right, let me move on and share with you. The first item on our agenda this evening is PA 2003 Zerbos. Roman Panisklowski, I hope I said it properly, representing Ryan Adams with Zerbos Bistro and Market of Commerce, Michigan, is requesting sign exemptions from Article 30 of the Commerce Township zoning ordinance to exceed the number of wall signs allowed, exceed the number of window signs allowed, exceed the allowed square footage for both window and wall signage, to allow wall signage on an elevation other than the front addressed elevation, and exceed the maximum projection out from the surface of the building located at 3000 East West Maple Road, Sidwell number 17 25 453 013. Roman, are you here? Or who is going to
I
make
am.
the appeal? That's you. Hi. Good
It'll be
evening.
me. And in
How do you
fact,
do?
good evening.
Good.
Very
It's
well,
your
thank you.
turn to make, it's your turn to make your presentation. When you are all finished, I will ask Ryan if there's anything he'd like to add. At the end of that, I'm going to close your portion of the meeting. Then I am going to ask the public, is there anyone here who would like to speak to this issue this evening? But they will only be talking to the board. We don't have back and forth discussions between you and the public. When the public is finished, I will close the public portion, and then I will turn to the board members, and each one will have an opportunity to speak or ask questions. And then, of course, we turn to Dave and to Jay and to Paula for any input. Then I will call for a motion, a second, discussion, and a vote. Everybody clear on that? Okay, so Roman, it's your turn, if you would, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I actually also have Nicole Adler with me, my associate that we've been working on this project for years to date.
We know that.
No kidding. I hope that during your visit there, you had the opportunity to also go inside and actually check out the facility as it's coming along. No, just the outside.
I wouldn't.
Oh, okay. I know that we have Ryan here also, and you mentioned that once Nicole and I have made our presentation, you'll also speak with him.
Absolutely.
So a long time coming. Sorry, I don't know what that interruption was. It just flustered me for a moment. A long time coming, and now really getting down to understanding how Ryan's business is going to operate. The fact that we've got a unique condition with a restaurant and a market together. Part of our difficulty with the way that the building is configured and where the restaurant is. And if am I able to share a screen?
That's Jacob.
Bob? Oh, Jacob, I'm sorry. Am I able to share screen? Thank you.
Yes, Roman, you should be able to.
Thank you. So allow me first just to briefly, I'll try to make this as brief as I can. We know that we have a big plate full of things in front of you. For the sake of everybody here, I will discuss this from a priority standpoint too, because our duty is to deal with our client and his needs for the business that he has. And so we've been playing a compromising role through this whole process to try to come up with something which can address some of his concerns. The first that I would like to mention to you, just in general layout, we are configured in such a way that the market is oriented towards Maple Road, and then the entire restaurant component of the project is oriented towards the parking lot, and the main entry of the project is at the parking lot side. We've looked at this from day one in our original layout because of the configuration of Maple Road, that we had very beautiful visibility of the restaurant facade and also a great view of the market facade. And similarly for eastbound traffic along Maple right down from M5, the western portion of the facade is very significant. I'm sure the board has reviewed this in detail, that we have a number of things going on. I'll start with the fact that we have some signage that we're proposing, which if in fact we were able to put it on the Maple Road side wouldn't even be an issue, but because of the hardship that we believe we're facing with the way that the restaurant is oriented, we are pursuing that item. We have a number of banners along the front. That's a separate discussion that I'll have with you in a moment. And then we have a bistro and a market sign that we're proposing here because we opted not to pursue a monument sign, which would be permitted by the ordinance, and that we in fact believe is just the clutter on the street, and in fact it could potentially pose some issues of safety way more than a wall sign would. With those things being said, again, just to clarify, Maple Road runs along this area right here. Our entire market is set up. Our main entrance is right here. People shop the market by coming in and exiting out of that area. This entrance is the market entrance. We do have a separate entrance that is this entrance is the market entrance. The shopping carts, you come in, you check out, and you end up leaving through the automatic doors. This is our restaurant entrance, which brings you into a host point, and then the back of the facility, or I should say the southern and eastern portion of the facility, there is our restaurant. Most importantly for us, when we look at everything that we're proposing here. Part of what we're proposing is some embellishment on the building because it's a rather extensive building. And those things we'll discuss, the things such as the banners out in front and the signage on the other end. But most critical for us is what ends up occurring at the entry itself. This entry, this restaurant is set up in such a way, let me move this around, where this facade right here, again, there's our market entry and here's our restaurant entry. This sign specifically, if we were to place it on the facade facing Maple, would be an allowable sign. Architecturally, we believed that this was a better location for the sign. It's oriented to announce the building both to Maple Road as well as to the parking field. And we're not asking for any kind of area exception. This is specifically a location issue. The most important thing from an operational standpoint is the ability to announce the market entry and the bistro entry right here, because it's the only device that leads you in any way to understand where the restaurant enters at. With regards to the facade, the western facade facing M5, we have a window sign. We didn't want to blast Zerbos all over the place, so this is very subtle just in the glass. And then we're proposing a bistro and a market sign, which in fact is the allowable area of signage should we decide to put it out on a monument. But again, we're opting to prefer not to put it on the monument because it actually improves the appearance of the building a little bit by giving it a bit of detail, as well as orienting it beautifully against eastbound. And because eastbound traffic on Maple Road, since a moment ago I pointed out to you that this signage orientation happens to be oriented towards westbound Maple Road. The banners become an issue. Once again, we started off throughout these years of design, we were considering some sort of a bracket embellishment, maybe some art pieces, maybe it was going to be a chicken and an avocado and a banana or something, who knows, out there to indicate that it was a market. But we opted for the simpler version because there's a nice dimensionality that's occurring along the building front. These trellises have trumpet vine, which is being propagated along the front. And in a matter of a few years, if I was to show you my garage in the summertime, in 3 years' time, this becomes an abundant blanket of orange trumpet vines along this entire facade. So we have some depth there. And in lieu of doing some kind of bracketed sign, which is much more sign-like, we opted to do the banners. These become an issue because we're proposing a verbiage on them. Again, depending on how our conversation goes, if this didn't have verbiage on it, then we're allowed to have the banners just with, if it was a color, for instance. Moving on, overall, it's because of the fact that we're proposing these two locations, all those tick marks of all the number of items that we're proposing, it seems so overwhelming. But from our standpoint, this is such a critical component to Ryan's business. And in fact, if this was, so we have two tenancies here, but it's not two real tenancies because they're actually occupied by the same ownership. If this was a building that the landlord would lease out two tenancies to, and we had proof of separate ownership of the operations occurring there, this again wouldn't be an issue because we would have different leniency in how we can approach the signage in that instance. So that poses a slight problem. Nicole, what am I missing? Anything? Oh, and one more thing. With regards to the summary of all the components, and I'm going to address the 6 items, Rusty, that you had mentioned just a moment ago as a quick summary for myself. But with regards to the summary of all the exceptions and variances, because of the 6 or 7 exceptions that we're asking for, let it be known that even with the overall signage area, I believe, Nicole, how much are we over? 2 feet, I believe? Or
In terms of wall signs, it was
just.
You're 31.5. You're 31.25.
32
There
feet,
we-
right.
yeah.
And so, for instance, with regards to the signage areas that we're showing on the banners as a component, that the removal of one of those things could remove that exception, that variance request with regards to the overall signage area. Now, so I quickly jotted down, Rusty, as you were speaking to me, I jotted down the 6 items that we should be addressing. With regards to danger and safety, honestly, wall sign locations don't play in to that conversation. As I mentioned, the only consideration would be the western facing bistro and market signage, which again, if we opted to put this on a monument sign, we would be permitted the monument sign out there. But it's our opinion that the monument is actually one more appurtenance on the road that could be avoided. And once you put a monument up, it's just one more device that could potentially be hit by a vehicle or anything else. We don't have any visibility issues because this is a rather large building in plan. When we look at it from a site planning standpoint, both facades are extremely visible. And so I don't have anything that I could, there's no trees. This was a brand new development. We met the development standards for the project, so we don't have that issue relevant to us. Now, that you mentioned that the granting of such a variance would not be adverse or out of place. So again, with regards to my conversation specific to the signage that's happening here, if this property was a strip development with 2 tenancies in there, this second tenancy, if it was owned by a separate operator, would be permitted its own sign. And so in terms of whether or not granting such an exception would be adverse or not in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance, I believe that there's a logic to this and an operational logic, because it sure is nice to be able to know where to enter the restaurant on a project of this sort. So the least necessary to accomplish what we would need to do, the least necessary would be the ability to be able to identify the entrance to the restaurant from, again, just trying to meet this criteria that you described for us. The fact that we have a unique condition per our site itself, where half of the building is oriented towards where a majority of the parking field is, and it actually, because of the configuration of Maple Road, actually has street visibility from it. We believe that we're meeting the intent of the code with branding the entire project here, because our option would be to incorporate that into this small area right here or onto this facade facing the road. And then we get into some trickiness because that facade is back here. And then I would be able to speak to the fact that the balance of the building would be blocking the signage for all eastbound traffic heading on Maple Road. Regarding the banners, that truly, whether the verbiage remains on there or not, the ability, markets have always been associated with canvas and some softness. And in lieu of doing awnings out over those windows, we believed that our proposed treatment of that by incorporating this opportunity for the plantings that occur there, that helps soften the hard construction, and the ability to have some fabric there that moves in the air. It speaks to being a market. And so that's all that we're trying to convey with that piece right there. And I've already discussed this end of the building itself. I would love to, and finally, Rusty, purpose is to preserve the aesthetics. I want to point out one point to everybody. once you're dealing with a building that's as extensive as the building that we have, it's hard to imagine that we're 32 feet over sign, because visually the building does not appear to be over signed. It gets absorbed by the mass of it. And so we believe that there are certain circumstances specific to this project that warrant us pursuing this with you and trying to have this dialogue, because it makes so much sense from an architectural standpoint, from a business standpoint, the identification of the entry, the configuration of the property on the street, and the area considerations that I discussed with you. Nicole, have I missed anything that you would add?
The only other point for discussion with the board would be what is considered signage on the windows.
Oh,
We have leaf components that were not intended as signage, but can be interpreted
Yes.
potentially as signage, and also that apple portion on the west gable
correct.
as well.
So with regards to these windows, the windows were designed for the purpose of bringing a lot of light into the market. And those of you who have had the opportunity to go inside, you've seen, it's a church to markets, for goodness sakes. It's really an incredible space on the interior.
I'm
But
looking forward to going.
pardon me?
I'm looking forward to Monday.
Yeah.
Opening.
So, yeah, I know. So when Ryan told us about a month and a half ago that he's buying stock because he's opening it coming February, we were thrilled too, because that shows that the next thing to come is the restaurant and we'll be there. So during these 4 years when Ryan walks the interior of this store, thinking about everything that, believe me, I think he's figured out operations very well during the 3 or 4 years that he's been walking through here during construction. It was discovered that there was some issue with the light coming in certain areas and damaging product. And in lieu of blacking out the windows, which is contrary to the entire purpose of installing windows into a space, because remember, this was designed 4 years ago, he didn't have a good layout understood yet for how product gets distributed through the market. We opted to use that perforated graphic material there and really treated it, the 3 gables that you see here, really treated them as just artistic, a bit of whimsy on that. We were going to carry over that exact same concept onto the west elevation. And I don't think, there it is right there. Over time, that became the little apple symbol, which in the case of this one window, we understand that that's part of the Zerbo logo. So there's a discussion to be had on that. But regarding the fronts, that was treated completely from the standpoint of getting a graphic in the window to help screen. It's a perforated dot pattern printing that when you're on the interior, you could see out, but it cuts 50 to 60% of the light coming in, which then hurts some product. He's got certain product components in front of that. I believe that's without taking up more of this board's time, because I know there's going to be some lively discussion about this. That's as good as I could respond to you, Rusty. Thank you for outlining those points up front. And I look forward to answering any questions. You want to mute me? I can curse on the over here though.
Well, we're going to move on to Randy next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I to mute myself, Jacob?
I can do that 1 second. There we go.
Hi, Jacob.
Hi. And then there's Ryan. And then I have Ryan unmuted as well.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rusty.
Hello. What would you like to add to what Roman had and Nicole had to say?
I don't have a ton. Roman, I think, hit all the buttons. So I'm just looking forward to, moving forward. So I'll let you guys take it over.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, I now am going to ask if there anyone from the public who would like to address this issue this evening. If so, Jacob, please explain to them again what they need to do to raise their hand and to be heard.
Of course. So if anyone else in the public is going to be speaking tonight, it is *9 to raise your hand to let me know you'd like to speak, and then it is *6 to unmute yourself. Please just address the board with your name and address before speaking on
Thank you.
your own issue. And then we do have one that we had earlier. I'm going to unmute him now. Again, it's *6 to unmute 1098. And you are on.
Bennett, is that you?
Hello. Yes, it is.
All right, we need
Bennett
first class.
Lublin,
Yeah, and your address.
613 Pine Tree Court in Walled Lake. That's where I live. And I'm also a landowner along East West Maple in Commerce Township there. So I just want to say that I support the requested sign variances. I'm a neighbor in this Maple Road corridor east of M5. I'm excited for Monday's opening, and the building site is extremely unique, and I think it should be treated differently. It's a significant curve throughout the property. It's over 1,000 lineal feet of frontage, and the building really has, because of the way the road is and the curve, it has 3 sides of frontage. And of course, good signage is needed. It will be helpful. And it's a 40,000 square foot building, new commercial, which is almost unheard of today. And if there were 8 separate 5,000 square foot units, which is a pretty substantial size unit in itself, there would be 8 signs. And this building is different and should be treated differently. And Ryan and the applicant has spared nothing with the construction. It is truly magnificent. I walked every inch and am just floored by some of the inputs throughout. And the applicant needs help, and I think he's earned it. And that's what I have to say. Thank you, board.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, Jacob, do you see anybody else?
No, I do not. So you guys can continue if you'd like.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting and turn to the board members. And I'm going to start with Rick, if you would please, Rick.
So I do believe this does have some uniqueness to it. I do have one question on the, I believe it's be the west side of the building, the sign where it says bistro and market. Are any of those signs illuminated? I'm not sure who's going to be answering. Everyone's muted, so I don't know who's going to answer, Rusty.
I'd like Roman to answer that, please.
Yes, those 2 are proposed as illuminated signs.
Is that a 24-hour illumination?
They're internally illuminated, but the word Zerbos, which is the window sign, is not illuminated. So these 2 are proposed as illuminated.
Are they 24-hour illumination?
Yeah, I think they would be because they're white-faced letters, and against that corrugated cement product that we're using there, they'll stand out beautifully.
Okay, thank you. All right, back to Rick.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Ryan might have to answer this question, but if it was approved, would you be willing to agree to wording that you would not be allowed to have any other sign, road type sign?
Yeah, so you're talking about like the monument sign?
Yes.
Right, yep. I could not do a monument sign to have these other signs implemented.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to turn to Bob Masterly.
Thanks, Rusty.
You're welcome.
So I do think the ordinance is really clear on the conditions that must be met. And in order to grant a sign variance, the way the road curves around the building, I do see a potential visibility should their main sign be first be put on the north side of the building. So I would not have a problem allowing a sign put on the east side of the building.
East or west?
east, a wall sign put on the east side of the
East side,
building
east. Okay,
instead of on the north side.
okay,
I would be okay with that. And if the board wanted to pursue an option of putting another sign, an additional wall sign on the west side, I would make that conditional as well upon no monument sign, which I think is pretty much what Rick was getting at as well.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Bill?
I just didn't pick up that the site was that difficult. I think they're really pushing the boundaries of the signing ordinance. It's just, I've tried to apply the 7 items, and I honestly can't get any of them to apply. I think it's too much. I don't know where we've signed a building this much anywhere in the township.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I think the main complaint I'm hearing them seems directionally related, which the directional signs are different in that, staff can walk them through directional signs in the parking lot. This is all just advertisement. It's all advertisement. And I think we'd be opening up a can of worms throughout the township, given that information.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
All right, my turn. It's very interesting to me what you've asked for and what you've asked where to be on the building. I'm going to start with the easy things. The banners, I don't have a problem with the banners being there, but I do have a problem with wording on it. That's not allowed. The banners are allowed without wording. I do not want wording. Now, I agree with Rick in if you give to get, that you're willing to sign off on ever having a monument sign, which, by the way, runs with the building, runs with the land, and to have the 2 signs. And I understand why you want the market and why you want the bistro. I do not want to see the Apple logo. I understand the leaves and what the purpose is to cut down the light, but if we agreed to that, then you could never put a logo on it. You can't put wording on it. It always needs to be a design without anything to do with a logo and or what the business is. I could live with that. Now, regarding the west side of the building, no, I do not. I believe exactly as what Bill said, that you're asking for an awful lot. And while it is a big building and I understand the curve of the road and so on and so forth, I also know that you're going to be doing advertising. And I also know that people, in order to get there, are going to have to turn north or east to go west and west to go north. And the traffic coming and going, that people will know very shortly what Zerbos is and what it does. So for me, the wall sign, I can live with it going on the east side of the building rather than the west side, because it's supposed to be on the north side, but I will not go with the extra 31.25 feet. You are allowed a maximum of 200, and that's what I believe it should be. With the window sign, you're allowed a maximum of 50% of the window of having coverage. Only 25% of each window is allowed to be covered. You are asking for between 64.8 and 94.3 is what you're asking for, and you're asking an awful lot. The window projection, you're asking for the wall projection. You are asking for 12 feet. We allow 12 feet for the wall projection. You're asking for 30 feet. I don't understand why. I don't understand why it needs to be so far. So what I am looking for is a lot less than what you're asking for, understanding why you are asking for the distinction of the bistro and the market. Now, I'm going to turn back to other board members. Based on what all the 4 of us said, I'm going back to Rick. is there anything you would like to talk about from what all of us have talked about?
So I see on the west side of the building, the illuminated bistro and market sign. I see that.
It's east, that's east.
On the east side.
It's on both.
Eliminating the.
That's the west side.
Yeah,
It's the
correct.
west?
This is the west side, yeah. The
I'm
west side.
confused. I thought bistro,
I don't know
what,
if you
you're
see
right.
that picture or
Right.
not.
I'm talking about the illuminated ones that what they want on the east side, but you're talking the west side that they want to go up on with the logo. I don't want any of that of there.
I'm talking about the one that has Zerbos in the glass. I'm asking then if, since we don't have a board consensus, and by the way, it does take 3 members to get approval, to maybe would you consider eliminating the Zerbos and leaving the bistro and market?
I'd go the other way.
Well, that's not, the reason I'm saying that is because it's illuminated, so at night you'll be able to see it. I'm guessing, I don't know if you'll be able to see the Zerbos sign at night in the window.
I would like to have the Zerbo sign in the window over the market and bistro,
Okay,
and I would light it with a ground light.
We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Ryan, it is a true window sign, right? So it would also have light kind of back projecting it from the interior of the store?
Light from the store, from the interior, will make it translucent. You will not be able to see it if there is light coming from the inside because it's perforated. So what it does is, if it's bright on the outside and dark on the inside, you will be able to see the sign, or you'll be able to see what's on the window. If it's opposite, where it's bright on the inside from all the lights and it's dark outside, you'll actually see right through it. You won't even see anything on it. You'll see inside.
Got it.
Okay, well, all right, Rick, going back to Rick, are you comfortable still with keeping the Zerbos in the glass based on what we just learned about illumination?
if he's willing, yes. I'm trying to find a compromise here, something we can work with. I'm neutral on the wording on the banners. I don't see it as setting a precedence or anything. Because
It's
of the way.
just not allowed in the ordinance.
I understand. But there's also, I said, there's some things that are unique about this building. And I do agree with the fact that if there were multiple tenants, that they would have more signs. So anyways, that's just how I'm looking at it. So other than that, I'm
All right,
good.
thank you. Thank you. Bob Mistley?
Yeah, I don't see the need to have the banner signs. I think just having like blank banners would be sufficient to draw the eye, is what they're looking at doing and giving that market feel on that.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
I mean, I don't see where that's going to make a big difference as far as the criteria I'm trying to hold to that we're given. So I still would not be in favor of it.
All right, well, now it's my turn. I'm not happy about the Zerbos on the bistro and market on the west side. Is that the west side? The west side of the
Facing
building.
M5.
Yeah, facing M5. I'm not happy about that. We're already giving you what you want on the east side, and I just don't see it. And the fact that you've chosen not to do a monument sign for anybody coming either direction is your choice if you want the bistro and the market. But I don't see this extra sign. I just don't. And while I recognize if it was a shopping mall center with multiple, but it's not. And it was built this way, knowing it was one market, knowing what the ordinance said. And I mean, Kroger would love to put up more signs. We've said no to those. And I need to be consistent as close as possible, knowing what the difficulties are, understanding the flow of the traffic, but the ordinance is what leads it. I don't see a hardship. That's my problem, is I don't see the hardship. I see choices, but I don't see a hardship. So for me, I understand the bistro and the market and identifying that, but I don't see most of the other things that you're asking for. Now I'd like to turn to Jay. Jay, are you there?
I am.
Hi, could you speak to this for us, please?
Which one? Which ones in particular?
Well, let's do them all. Let's go with the two with the market and the bistro.
The market
Signs on the east
on the
side.
west side. Okay, so per our ordinance, as we've put in the report, they're allowed one wall sign on the what would be the street side face, so which would be the north side. So that's one of the variances, is allowing it not to go on the north side, and to, in this case, go on the east side, and it's the main Zerbo's sign. So they would be allowed one up to 200 square feet. So if you're going to allow them more than one wall sign, and they're going to go on different facades, Ron mentioned earlier that if you go out and look at it right now, it doesn't look overwhelmed by signage, which I might agree with them, but that's because you're taking all the wall signs and you're distributing it across 3 facades of the building. Put them all on the north face, I think it would look overwhelmed. So that's why it doesn't look overwhelmed right now. It's as far as, you know, there's a lot of moving parts here, so bear with me a little bit. So I'd like to break them apart. The window signs themselves, I think, would like your input. I've deemed the leaves to be signage.
Oh,
I can see the argument that it's not, and that it's an architectural feature. And that's one thing I think you guys need to decide on. And if that's the case, the window sign goes away, that issue goes away, except for possibly on the west side where it says Zerbo's with the apple feature. The banner signs that you've addressed, again, if you don't want verbiage on it, then they can have it, and it's an architectural feature. Putting words on it brings it into a sign, and it then projects out farther than we allow the signs. So that'll take care of that one. On the east side, they've got the Zerbo's main wall sign, but then the bistro and market sign, entrance sign, they're allowed directional signage, and we allow directional signage on the building, but it gets limited in size to 20 square feet. And I don't have it right here in front of me. I left it in my office, but they're asking for more than that. And in this case, the 2 doorways are only separated by 15 feet, 20 feet. Ron can probably give us the exact distance. So it's not like there's one entrance that's at the opposite end of the building and another one 200 feet away. These are literally right next to each other. One goes into the market, one goes to the bistro. So I don't see where putting a smaller directional sign to direct people once they're there as to which door to go in to go to the market or the bistro, they can do that per our ordinance. But the sign they proposed for the bistro and market far exceeds what we would allow for a directional sign.
okay. Okay, so I'm hearing you. So let me just say it back to you to make sure I've got it right. That they are allowed a wall sign up to 200 square feet. They're asking for 231. The window signs, you are considering those as signage, and that's something for us to interpret. If they do not have any words on the banners, they still need to be the 12 inches from the feet? 12.
No, they can remain. So they just remove the words, those banners can go in.
Okay, and on the east side, they want to put it in a wall, they want to do the wall sign, and that is a second wall sign, correct? Also
Yes,
with 200 feet.
yes. So,
Okay.
yeah,
And going back to the bistro and the market sign, they are allowed those without any variance, so long as the 2 of them together equal 20 square feet. Is that correct? Or is each one 20?
directional signs can go up to 20 square feet. So if they
For
were,
each one? For each?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
so each one. Okay,
So if they had done a single wall sign that said Zerbo's and underneath it bistro and market and made it one sign,
Mhm.
and then they could put a smaller 20 square foot directional sign at the door to direct people to enter here to go to the market and go here to enter the bistro, they could do that. And that would, in essence, eliminate a wall sign because they would be combining the 2 they have now on the east side into one. Follow me.
I think I followed it. All right, talk to me again about the west side and the window signs. The Zerbos in the window. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so they are allowed window signs. They're only allowed a maximum of 50 square feet total of window signage. And that's where deciding whether or not the leaves on the north side are window signs or not is pertinent. So they're allowed 50 total square feet for the building, but they're not allowed to put more than any one window more than 25%.
Does the Zerbos that's in the windows right now exceed the 25%? Each
I
window?
believe with the logo, it does. If you just leave the
No, just the letters, just the ZBA.
just the letters, I think meets the 25% and is under the 50 square feet total. If the leaves in the other windows do not count as window
Okay.
signs.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now I would like to go to Dave Campbell, please.
Things I was gonna mention, and
Hi.
Mr. Sutter touched on this too.
Can't hear.
There's 4 of you here tonight, so any action that's taken would have to pass by either a 4-0 vote or a 3-1 vote. A 2-2 vote would be a failed motion. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
I agree with Jay's interpretation of the window sign on the west side of the building, that the Zerbos lettering is of a size that it would be allowed on that westerly window. Where it exceeds is by adding the logo, that half apple logo just below where it says Zerbos. So if that sign were to only say Zerbos and the area underneath it didn't have the logo, then that sign would be permitted, unless Jay wants to disagree with me on that. So on the west side of the building where they're going over is the signs on either side of that window that say bistro and market. I think it would be a good idea for the ZBA to make a determination on the 3 windows on the north side of the building, which don't have any verbiage on them, but have that apple leaf pattern, and make a determination of whether that apple leaf pattern constitutes branding and a commercial sign, or whether that apple leaf pattern is just something of a generic decorative pattern on the window, which would then make it allowed and would eliminate the need for any ZBA action on sign exceptions for those 3 northerly window signs.
Right, north windows. Okay.
That might be a good place to start, and to start moving toward a decision, is an interpretation of those 3 northerly windows. Are those signs, or is that just a generic, I think Roman called it a whimsical pattern on those 3 northerly windows?
I got a question for you, Dave. Is it only the wording, the apple and the wording, the other 2 are not considered signs?
We're talking on the west side, Rick?
No, the whimsical ones you're talking about.
North.
On the north side of the building, which is the side facing Maple Road, there's the 3 windows. Each of those windows are covered with a vinyl perforated graphic that has apple leaves on them, or leaves anyway. And the question is, are those apple leaves, and then are those meant to be consistent with their logo, which is an apple, or is that just more of a generic decorative leaf pattern?
So the way
could that just as easily be clouds, or could that just as easily be a picture of a meadow?
A dog. Yeah. Okay.
So if it doesn't, maybe I'm misinterpreting. If it doesn't have have any letters in it, if it has letters in it, it makes it a sign.
The sign on the window sign on the west side, I don't think there can be any argument that that's not a window sign, because it says Zerbos and then underneath it is their logo. So I don't see how you can call that anything other than a window sign. And
the other
2, the other 3.
The one is a 3. Okay, are you considering those, the 2 of you, Jay and Dave? Are you considering those signs right now or not signs? I'm not sure I'm hearing.
Right now, I've considered them signs, but that I believe is up to some interpretation by you. And if you guys determine that, do not believe that it is a sign, like Dave said, if they were clouds, I don't think I would have interpreted it as a sign, because a cloud isn't associated with Zerbos as a market or as a bistro. But with
what are you saying, Dave?
The apple in their logo, I considered it a sign. If you don't believe that is a sign, and that, like Dave said, that's probably the good place to start, then that eliminates one of the issues with going over the 50 square feet total for the building.
And what's your interpretation, Dave?
My opinion is those leaves are relatively generic. I don't see anything proprietary about them. I think there's a reasonable conclusion that those could be considered just a generic art pattern to prevent some of the sunlight from coming in those windows and baking the inventory on the inside.
So if I were to make a motion, what is the correct term? So it makes sense.
Well, hold on to that for a moment. While you're thinking about that, can I go to one more person?
Sure.
Okay, Paula?
Yes.
Paula, aye. Is there anything you would like to add to anything that we're talking about?
Nope, I think they got it all right.
Okay, all right, Rick, I'm back to you. I'm not ready for the motion yet, Rick, because I got some more
Well,
talk.
I agree that we should deal with this, separate this one issue first. And so that's what I was going to do, is make a motion,
Well-
and whatever vote goes, it goes wherever it goes. But
Well, except it's all one motion. And here's the thing, we can
No,
do an
I disagree
except.
It
with
doesn't
that.
have to be.
I disagree.
Doesn't
with
have to be? All
You
right,
could
because,
make, if you're ready to do so, someone can make a motion just on the issue of whether those 3 window signs on the north elevation, are those truly signs, or are they more of just a generic window covering? That
So
would
what-
be a motion on the interpretation.
So that's what I'd
Don't
like
weigh
to
it.
do, but I'm asking, what do I call those?
decorative window.
Window coverings.
Window coverings.
Okay.
Is there anybody else, Bill or Bob, anything you want to say about these leaves, these windows, before Rick gets going on this?
I don't.
I'll make the motion, then they part of discussion, they can chime in. So I'll make a motion to interpret the north 3 window coverings not to be signs.
Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right, is there discussion?
Uh,
Well,
I'll say something.
well, you want to say something about that?
You can go first, Rusty.
Well, I think should this pass, that it be added to the other motion that these windows will never have any words and or part of the Zerbo logo. That it will just be window coverings to dissipate the light going through.
Can I, since I made the motion, can I word it in such a way, so any change of the existing design requires planning director approval?
Oh, I
Or
like that.
is that just automatic, Dave?
It wouldn't hurt to include that as part of your motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
make it
And then-
part of the building department, because.
And yes, since the building department reviews and approves
Yeah.
signs, I would say
Mhm.
administrative administrative approval by the building department.
Okay, so let me add that to the has, any change in design would require pre-approval from the building department.
Okay, administrative approval. All right, we have a motion and a second. The chair will call for the vote. Rick, I'm going to start with you.
Aye.
Okay, Bill
No.
and Bob
Aye.
and Rusty, aye. Okay, so that did go, that they can be there. They just can't have any apple or anything that makes them look like part of the logo. All right, we've taken care of that. All right, is there anything anybody would like to say before we move on to working on a motion?
So yeah, so what now between Dave and Jay, now that we've eliminated that, what does that change any of the other numbers as far as the variance requests?
Go ahead, Dave. I'll let you go.
It would change the dimensions on the overage for window signs, because now the only overage for window signs applies to that window sign on the west side of the building, which is the window sign that says Zerbo's on top with a Zerbo's Apple logo just below it.
Well, can't have the apple. Is it in that same window or is it a different window?
It's all in the same window. And so basically on the window on the west elevation, they would be limited to no more than 50 square feet and it cannot occupy more than 25% of that window.
Let me do that again. So that's going to be considered a window sign, and it is on the west side. All right, tell me again. They've got 25% and 25%
25%
is
of the total
permitted.
window and no
Uh-huh.
50 square feet.
It's no more than, give me a second. More than.
It didn't change.
It doesn't change except for the fact that before they exceeded the 50 square feet overall.
Yeah, 219 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I would like to make if there's anything anybody would like to say before we get to the motion portion.
I've got a question, Rusty.
Yes, sir.
If I could. So you talked about possibly allowing the bistro and market on the west side in lieu of any monument sign.
Correct.
I just want to make sure, does that go, if they were to get another tenant in that building, which I believe, and Ryan, maybe he could address it. I thought from the original site plan that they did have intentions of having other tenants in that building. Normally, those tenants would get a sign based on their frontage with a minimum of 20 square feet. And then they would also normally would get some signage on the monument sign. So if they get a new tenant, are they going to be allowed another sign on the building? Or is that something that is going to be included in this?
Well, that also brings up, if they stay to the 20 square feet for the market name and bistro name, and therefore they don't need a variance for that because they're directional signs, does that then take away, because we had asked him not to have, that he would not have the monument sign if we gave him those, but since he's entitled to those, that brings back the monument sign.
I thought you guys were talking about allowing the sign on the west, the bistro on the market on the west side, if he wasn't going to have a monument sign. You would allow
Yes,
the wall signs on.
But Ryan said he preferred to have the Zerbo sign and give up the bistro and the market.
Yeah.
And he also said, which we said we were going to talk about, is he wanted to have illuminated, and I think someone wanted to address being
Okay. Well, I guess
illuminated.
what I just want to make sure clear before we get a final motion is, what if there are other tenants? Is this motion tonight going to encompass those, or that'll be a separate issue when those tenants come in?
Rick, I want to go back to the monument sign for a moment. If they agree to the 20 square feet for the directional signs, remember you said if we gave them the bistro and the market, would they be willing to give up the monument? But if they go to the 20 square feet, that then brings back into play the monument. Am I correct?
It's very, so that's what I was thinking, the same thing. If we eliminate enough things, whatever, then they will be back in a position where they can have a monument sign.
Exactly. So if they have another tenant down the road, they can then visit the idea of having a monument sign.
Or they can use it for themselves.
Yeah, down the road. Okay.
So I'd still like, I'd still like to make clear if we're going to, if it makes a difference on the signage, if we're going to eliminate the bistro and market on the west side and just leave the window Zerbos illuminated from the ground.
Yeah, how do we feel about that, fellas? How do we feel about illuminating it? Are they allowed to illuminate it from the ground, Jay?
Yes.
They are.
They're allowed to illuminate a wall sign, yes. So they
Okay.
could internally or from the ground.
Okay, so that's out of our hands.
If it's a
That
window
was-
sign, does that still meet the criteria?
A window, oh boy. I may have to look that up, Rick, real quick. Paula, do you know that off the top of your head? I don't believe a window sign can be illuminated itself, but usually you're talking about illuminated letters within the window and not illuminating it from a light on the exterior.
And let's go to what you just said.
I think they would just be illuminating the west side of their building that happens to have a window on it.
Right.
That's what I was just going to ask. If there's
That
no
would be
lettering,
fine.
they could still do they could do
Yeah.
illuminating.
Yes.
And that's out of our hands. That's not part of a motion because they can do that anyway.
They could do that, yes.
All right,
All right.
Rusty, you can slice and
Anybody-
dice it any way you want.
Okay, anybody have anything else they would like to add, ask? All right, then the chair will call for a motion. All right, then I will make the motion. It's going to take a little help. I need help, fellas. This is, where's my paper? 1 second, here it is. I need this. Okay. A motion to deny with exception. So I'm going to read this. We, the ZBA, find that the applicant has not satisfied the standards for all the exceptions sought, but we do find the standards for some exceptions have been satisfied. The exception sought for the ability to move the wall sign from the north to the east side is granted because of the following standards have been satisfied. Give me a second. Granting the exception will not be adverse to the character or appearance of the surrounding buildings, properties, or neighborhoods. And the requested exemption is the least necessary to reasonably accomplish the sign's purpose. Okay, and that's because the parking and the entrance for the businesses are, the business is located on the east side of the building. We further find that the standards have not been satisfied for the following exceptions sought, and these exceptions are denied. Bear with me. Let me go back to the one that I just spoke. I am addressing section 30.05, letter D, number 2, and which is why also the sign cannot exceed the 200 square feet. And the, let me add one more thing before I get to, I'm going back to the exceptions that are allowed. The 3 banner wall signs on the north elevation are going to be allowed without any writing on them.
They don't really need an exception then. If there's no wording on them, then they're just a banner.
Well, I want it to be in the,
Just an architectural feature.
yeah. Okay, now I'm going to go to, I'm talking, give me a second, everybody. It's a little convoluted here. All right, I'm going to go through the exception for the 2 wall signs on the west elevation that included the word bistro and market are denied because the following standards have not been satisfied. The requested exemption is not necessary to fulfill the understanding of what's, the requirements. Give me a second here. The requested exemption is not required to, well, give me a second here. Granting this exception will not be adverse, is adverse to the character, the appearance of the surrounding buildings, properties, or neighborhoods because it is over signage. And that is on the west side of the building. Now regarding the wall sign on the east side, the bistro and market sign are allowed as directional signs in the ordinance. Give me a second. What I do with my paper? Here it is. For a maximum of 20 square feet each. Therefore, bistro and market for the east side of the building are allowed so long as they do not exceed what the ordinance allows. Moving on. Wall sign location. We have determined that the building, that it can go on the east side of the building. Now I'm going to address the west side of the building. The west under window signs, and we've the standards have not been met for window signs for the following reasons. The west elevation, they're asking for a total of 219 square feet of window sign, and they're allowed no more than 50 square feet. The window sign that now has ZBRBOS with the apple will be permitted because they are the 25% permitted, and they are not more than the 50 square feet. Anything over that will not be allowed. We have on the north elevation, the 3 window signs, it has been determined by the Zoning Board of Appeals that the leaves do not constitute a sign. It is just decoration, and they will not be allowed to be anything other than decoration. Therefore, no logo, no food pictures, nothing like that. They are just there to be pretty and to handle the light in the window. Let me go to the wall projection sign. Do we need to deal with that, Dave, now that we have the
No,
banners?
because they're not signs anymore. So now they're
Okay,
banners.
so then we
and-
don't
and the
need to deal
projected-
with that, and we don't need to deal with that. And I believe, where's my little paper here? I have handled the wall projection, the windows, and the wall. And if anything changes by way of the business and or additional tenants, then the applicant is required to go to the building administrator for administrative approval of any changes of any of these signs. Don't go far. I've got more. Okay, and is there anything that I missed in that?
Yeah, Rusty, I think for the approval of the west, of the sign on the west side, can we make that conditional that there is no sign placed on the north side?
Okay, we can do that. Also, I wanted to, glad you said that. On the west side, that will not be, the bistro and market will not be allowed to be placed on the west side of the building, just the window sides. Also, nothing by way of a sign will now be allowed to be placed on the north side of the building. This does not prevent, none of what we have discussed here will prevent the applicant from in the future, should they wish to, put up a monument sign on the north side of the building. Is there a second for this?
I'll second.
Thank you. And now discussion. Rick.
So why are we putting into this motion, a variance request motion, when we already did the interpretation on the north 3 windows?
Come back at me again. I'm not following your question.
The wall covering, the ones that you said have light could be pretty, that one, we did that separately as an interpretation, so that should not be part of this variance request.
Yeah, but he has windows on the north side also.
But we handled that already in the previous motion that was already passed.
Yeah, but if he changes his mind and takes the Zerbo out, what, that he can't do low.
That's a different sign.
Okay. Does it matter, Rick, that it's in there?
Well, then what's the point of going through the interpretation? Because I would say yes, because Dave said that by making the interpretation, it changes the dimensions of the size that they're allowed. Now you gotta put
Dave,
it back in there.
Can you fix this?
Just
I don't-
eliminate that part about what you said about the 3 north windows.
I think that's the solution is
You're right, it's already been
strike
addressed.
any reference to the 3 north
Yes,
windows.
strike the references that I made to the north windows. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. I've definitely got that, Rick. Thank you for catching that.
And then also want to clarify on the west side, I'm not sure, because did you give us 2 different motions?
I could have. I was
Because you
busy.
said that they're allowed to have the sign, but then I thought you said they're not allowed to have it. They're allowed to have the sign if they're under 50 square feet, but then you also said they're not allowed to have the bistro and the
Right,
the
and
other
market.
one says.
No, only the
And only the
window
window
signs.
sign.
Only the window signs, no other signs. And the
So
bistro and the market
right.
were going to be placed on the building. They weren't part of the window.
But I thought, okay, because I thought you said they could have it not to exceed the 50 square feet.
which they already have with the window. The window equals that, according to Jay.
Window sign on the west elevation. They're allowed a window sign in the west elevation that cannot exceed 50 square feet or encompass more than 25% of the window area.
And do they?
I believe it encompasses more than 25% of the window area with the Apple logo as part of it. If they just do the Zerbos wording, they would be fine.
Then let's take the apple out. Okay, we'll take out the
Okay.
apple and
So
just
my-
leave the Zerbo, because that way we're not giving an exception. They can fit into the ordinance. They don't have to have the apple. People who are going to Zerbos are looking for Zerbos, not, they may buy apples, but they're not looking for an apple.
So the other thing I'm saying is you're putting it as an exception or as a variance for something that they don't need an exception or a variance for.
Then fix it. Fix it with Debbie, please. What did I say,
I
Deb?
don't think you need to mention that 50, the west side if it's within the variance. That's if it's in
Deb,
the.
what did I say?
Right.
And
So
how did
so
I-
you,
I'm going back. Keep talking and I'm going back and I'll pick
If
up.
I
the
That's all
could.
I'm asking, and I'm good with everything else.
if I could, you don't even have to mention the window on the west side. You've already determined the windows on the north are not signs. Therefore, they just have to meet the ordinance on the west window.
So is that what I want to say?
You don't need an exception or anything like that. They just have to meet the ordinance.
I'm asking to remove, you mentioned that, I'm asking to remove that from your motion.
Okay, I'm willing. I'm willing. I am looking to do the least amount of variance necessary. I'm always looking for the least amount.
So
Did we-
Rusty, which part do you have me looking back for? Because this
Well,
is
you have
one
to
really
ask
long.
Rick because I don't remember.
I have 2 wall signs on the west elevation. The bistro and market are denied because the standards are not satisfied. So those could be directional signage for a maximum of 20 square feet.
No.
They
No,
can't be
no,
directional.
no,
that
I'm on
high
the
up.
East and west is mixed up here.
I'm only talking about the north and the west. I have nothing to say on the
North
east.
and west. Okay, I'm taking more notes. So what am I still looking for, Rick?
My understanding of Rusty's motion was that the window sign on the west side of the building could not exceed the 25% maximum and could not exceed the 50 square feet, which essentially means that the Apple logo on the west window sign cannot be there. Only the Zerbos lettering above it.
And then it meets the criteria, meets the ordinance.
Yes.
So we don't need a variance. We don't need to mention that.
Okay.
Got it.
So am I correct, guys, don't write right now, but am I correct that we're having discussion? Then therefore, the only variance that we really have done is move the sign from the logo sign from the north part of the building to the east side of the building. That's really the only thing we've done.
Yes, that's,
Okay, so everything else has to meet the ordinance by way of size. Is that correct? By way of the size of the signs, on how much coverage of the windows?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so we've only given them one variance. We've moved the sign from the north to the east. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's for you. Remove all that. And there's no more there's no wording about they cannot have a monument sign.
So let me redo this entire thing. Can I do that?
You can.
Okay, let me
Sorry,
say,
Rusty. If I had chocolate, I'd give it to you right now.
okay. We, the ZBA, find that the applicant has not satisfied the standards for all the exemptions sought. We do find the standards for one exemption has been satisfied, which is moving the wall sign from the north side of the building to the east side of the building, and the sign will not exceed 200 square feet as per the ordinance. Everything else asked for can meet ordinance standards.
Conditional on no north sign. No wall sign on the north elevation.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing I wanted to put in there somewhere is, no, No, we already did. We already made the interpretation about the leaves.
And
Okay,
if something changes, it should come back to the building department.
Correct.
Rusty, I have one question before we finalize this. Were there any
Sure.
letters submitted?
Not
Emails or
that I
letters?
got, no, not that I got. There was nothing from the public.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, all right. Anybody have any discussion on this before we vote?
Do we need to second the new motion or
Yes.
I'll
right.
second the new one?
Thank you, thank you. All right, gentlemen, let's start with Rick. All those in favor? Rick, you're first.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Bob
Aye.
and Bill
No.
and Rusty, yes.
So that's,
Gentlemen.
so my no,
That motion just failed.
right, so my no is because I think I'd like to have a little more flexibilities. So I'll take Rusty's motion, basically, and all I do is add to allow the west side signs. What was the original size?
On the west,
246 or something like that? Is that the wrong window?
talking window sign or wall sign?
The two wall signs. What were they, over the 50?
They're allowed, well, you can give them a variance. So the total building's allowed 200 square feet. So that you could have them divided up amongst the signs however they want.
So is it the total? Okay, so it's the total that I need to give a variance on. I'm trying to figure out what is the correct wording to allow those two signs?
They would need an extra 31.25 feet.
Okay, so I'll take Rusty's motion, and I'm getting waved at by Roman.
Say that last part again. I couldn't quite hear it.
That's incorrect.
Can you help me out, Roman?
Yeah, if I could.
Incorrect.
Dave, and I'm sorry to step on what you had just said, but the minute that we removed the areas associated with the banner signs, we took away that extra 31, 32 square feet. So right now, with the banner verbiage gone, we're at 200 square feet. We're less than 200 on everything that's shown, except for the Apple logo, which exceeded both the maximum area and the intent of that.
Right. But
graphic.
the Apple logo is a window sign. So that's calculated differently than the wall sign. So based on Roman's calculations, which I can accept, then they're not asking for more sign area. They're just asking for 2 additional signs, and for those 2 additional signs to be on the west side of the building.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
So
and that'll be
I just want to clarify that on the east side plus the west side totals 200 square feet or less.
That's correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
So this one
Okay,
is,
Rick, back to you.
this is a confusing one. So I'll take Rusty's previous motion, and all I would do is add the 2 west signs to be allowed.
Is there a second for that?
Rick, do you want to allow the monument as well with
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And to prohibit a monument sign. Thanks, Bob.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. That now makes a problem for down the road if they rent out like the spa that they talked about years ago. If they rent that out to a third party, then who is allowed a sign,
It's a great
they don't
question.
have a monument to work with.
Just like any other business that modifies how the business
the signs.
operation, they will have to come back to building, planning, and
They-
so
they-
I'm
We'll
worried about.
we'll
They
address
would
the
still,
issue.
if I
We'll
could,
address the issue if and when it comes up.
yeah, it would be up to the owner then. They are allowed 200 square feet of signage. They can distribute it how they see fit. You're allowing them an extra 2 signs on the west. And if they come in for another, they may have to reduce some of the other signs if they want to put a tenant sign up.
Or give up one and
Address
put
that
one
when
as
it
the
comes
tenant.
up, like Dave said.
Well, I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about Kroger. I'm thinking about Kroger facing Commerce Road and when they came to us years ago about additional signs.
They had not reached their maximum signage, so they were allowed a tenant sign separate and it wasn't an issue.
No, I know, but they wanted signage on the west side, with the Kroger. They wanted a big sign over on that side, and we said no to them for that. I'm looking for consistency. Okay. All right. We now have a motion. We have a second. We had discussion. Bill, is there anything you would like to add?
No,
Okay, then I'm going to call for the motion. Rick, I'll start with you.
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
no,
Rusty, no. I don't want those two signs over there. You're asking for more than anybody else really gets.
When we come to a stalemate, one of the downsides with us having the 4 members, we may have to table it until.
Well, just a moment.
Clearance, unless someone else has a
Well,
compromise.
they want to open on Monday. They want to open on Monday and they need signs. So let's talk. I'll tell you what. I want to go back to Dave. Let's go back to Dave for a moment. Dave, if we took out the bistro and market sign on the west side for the motion tonight, could they come back another time and ask for those exceptions? That would get them started on what they need to get opened on Monday.
I want to say that in our zoning ordinance says you cannot ask for the same variance within the same 365 days, but this is not a variance. This is a sign exception. So I know of no reason why they couldn't, again, request that sign exception.
All right, I need to go back to Rick. Rick, are you willing to do that? Take it out?
Is Ryan, is the applicant willing to do that? Because they'd have to pay a fee again and go through that whole process.
Well, let's go ask them.
This is Ryan. If I don't get the market and bistro on the wall, I'm just going to put it on a monument sign. So,
Well, you're entitled to a monument sign.
Right. I'm entitled to it. And that I'm just saying, like, if you guys don't want the monument sign, allow me to put it on the building. If you
I'd
don't
rather you
care,
have the monument sign.
okay, then I'll just put it on the monument sign. And I'll just put, and I think the discussion should be whether the apple it can be included or not. Because if the apples can't be included, then it's just going to say Zerbos. And then I am in compliance. But I would think I should be able to get the apple.
Well, it doesn't fit. And there's no reason, there is no compelling reason other than you want it for it to work on the ordinance. But it can go on your monument sign, I'm sure, if it fits.
And the only other thing is because of the wetlands behind me, I was forced to build this building close to the road. And, that's just another reason that cars need to see it from the, from the east and west. But that's really what I'm asking for for this exception. Otherwise, I'm in compliance and I don't need.
I want you to be.
My suggestion would be, and I think we can do this, is to table any action on the 2 wall signs on the west elevation, the bistro and market wall signs. We'll table action on those until we have a full 5 members, so we avoid the stalemate scenario.
Okay.
Table that action and try to get off center on all the other exceptions.
So, hey, Dave.
Yes.
Can we really have, when we have a full board, I don't think Clarence can vote on this because he wasn't here for part of the discussion. I only know that because as the alternate, I couldn't step in when we tabled something, even though I was at the previous meeting, I wasn't acting at as a member.
Right.
I agree. That's why we need to get this alternate back.
Well, Rick, here's the other thing.
I want them to open. I was hoping I could get you to change your mind a little bit, Rusty, but I think I'm losing.
No, but Randy said he's willing to go with the monument sign. And that gives him all kinds of options.
Would you prefer to have a monument sign or a wall sign?
I prefer
to have a wall sign.
I would prefer to have the monument sign because it's allowed in the ordinance and where he's not going to be having anything anybody else isn't at. Think about when Suburban came to us and they wanted whoever Gerber, they wanted both and we didn't want it there. I mean, it's the same thing. There's
No, it's
no
not.
reason. There's no reason.
Ryan's not asking for both. He's saying, I take one
I
or the other.
understand
I'm willing
that.
to take the wall sign, which is less obtrusive. It's a better safety issue from cars driving down the road. Because, am I correct, Dave? He may have to have it within, he may have to have a variance to have it within the site or the setback, but he could then have an illuminated sign that has letters and sales and all that kind of stuff, which would be a distraction to people driving. He would be entitled to that, correct?
He is entitled to a monument sign that has to be a certain height and a certain size and a certain distance from the road. So when you talk about sales and other things, I mean, all those things would have to be within the sign area allowances. But yes, he could have a monument sign.
What I mean is he could have a sign that has, graphics and letters, a changing sign. What I'm getting at, that sign, like the ones we have on Union Lake or some other ones, those to me are distracting to drivers. You drive around a curve and you can have a sign that's going to get people's attention. If he goes that route, I'm thinking from a health, safety, and welfare standpoint that it would be safer to, in this case, if you have an applicant willing to give up that, which he has a right to have that wall, the monument sign in exchange for going for a static sign, wall sign, I think that's a safe trade-off for the residents of the township. That's my point. That's why I think it would be, this is unique. This is how often do we have someone that comes to us and says, I'm willing to give up a monument sign for a wall sign? This is unique. Most people want, like you said, like Gerber's, they want both.
Yeah. All right, let me turn to Bill and get your opinion on what Rick just said.
I think it's a stretch. I'm not voting for it. So I don't know what else to add. I've seen too many applicants come in and plead their cases for additional signage and have all walked away without a variance because it doesn't meet the criteria. That's my feelings.
Mine too. Mine too. And I think, Rick, I hear you. I don't agree at all. Which brings us back to the 2-2. So Randy, I'm going to you for a moment.
Who's Randy?
Are you there?
You mean Ryan Adams? Do you mean Ryan Adams, Rusty?
Ryan, I kept saying Randy. I do apologize. Ryan, you're comfortable with going with the monument sign if need be. Is that correct?
Yes, if that's my only option.
Okay, thank you. Rick, are you willing to change your motion at all? Or to make another motion?
Yeah, or the other option is to take Dave's suggestion and approve what we can tonight and then table the other part.
We're not able to.
Dave has to withdraw that suggestion. Mr. Lee is right, and God bless him for it. Because if we were to have a meeting with Mr. Mills, because he was not here this evening, he would not be allowed to take up a tabled action on a matter that was discussed at the meeting that he was absent for. Now, going back to what I think, Mr. Stovall, your suggestion was, could they just come right back in a month or two with a request for a sign exception on the 2 wall signs? Yes, they could. There's no 365-day limit for them to do that.
Would they have to pay again? We could make an exception.
No, well, so tell me if I'm correct in my interpretation. If they come back as a new item with a new item that we would use, a new PA 21 dash whatever, it would be a new hearing. Therefore, we'd be starting from scratch, public hearing and everything. That for Clarence would be able to, if we have 5 members, it would be a full 5 members that could then hear that case because it would be considered different than this case.
True. And yes, we would have to put a new notice in the newspaper. And that, of course, costs money, and it would be on the applicant to cover that cost.
So Ryan, Do you want
Are you
to?
willing?
Yes, are you willing, you want to do that, or you want us to just approve what we have for this current motion, or the one that will pass? And then you'll have to, if you do want a wall sign, you'll have to come back. If you want the monument sign, you don't have to come back. Unless there's a, I shouldn't say that, unless it falls into a setback issue, which is a possibility.
Right. Okay. I don't really want to come back to it. I thought that I was doing something by giving up a monument sign, but just like you said, everyone wants a monument sign. So I thought I was doing something, I thought I was giving up something huge. And if you'd rather me have a monument sign, then that would be fine. But I would still be willing to give up a monument sign to have the apple be part of the window sign.
I think this is interesting. So Ryan, say it again. You're not necessarily, you're saying you would not want the 2 wall signs on the west side of the building, but if you could have the Apple logo in the window sign on the west side of the building, you would trade that for a monument sign?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, if you're not going to allow any of this, then I'm going to end up putting a monument sign up. And I thought that I was giving up something huge by not putting a monument sign up. And if you're considering the apple to be part of my logo, then I would rather keep it and give up my monument sign.
So in that scenario, the west side of the building would not have any wall signs, but would have a full window sign with the Zerbos lettering at top and the Apple logo below it?
Correct.
So no bistro, no market on the west side.
Correct.
Okay, I could live with
How
that.
do you feel about that one, Rusty?
I could live with that.
Okay.
I could live with that. How much variance are we asking for with the logo? And that's a J question. Or a Dave.
I would like to mention something. The apple, if you look at it, does not take up the apple itself is not a huge, it's big, but it's not a full apple. It's just an outline of part of an apple.
Yeah.
When you look at, can you bring it up? If you were to bring it up on the screen, you could actually see it. It's not, I don't know if when you're considering the footage, are you considering just a square foot? Because the design is really, if you added it all up, it's probably only 3 feet.
Yeah, Ryan, the issue with that is our ordinance requires us to box in any part of the sign so that we have to create a box around that Apple logo. That's why it creates such a large thing.
Right.
I'm hearing, if you guys said if they're allowed the window sign on the west elevation as proposed in lieu of a monument sign, I think that would cover it and we would be good to go. And Paul, I don't know if you got the exact measurements there.
I do.
Okay. She might be able to tell you exactly what that
I mean,
variant.
the entire window is 300 square feet. But the apple itself, if you rectangle the apple, it's 181 square feet. And
Is
then
what 10 what?
181.
181.
181. The apple.
Zerbos itself, I don't have the square footage on that, but it takes up, that window pane.
It was 75, if I remember right.
5 by 15, yeah.
Yeah, 75. So their total is
181 plus 75, you're at 256.
256.
Yep. So you need 206 square feet of variance sign.
Wow, Rick. Wow.
That's
not little.
Yeah, but it keeps it moving forward.
And there's
It
no
does.
monument sign.
And there's no monument sign.
Which
Does it make it worse for another tenant though?
We'll
For you
figure
guys
that
to
out.
figure that out?
We'll figure that out when that day comes.
We're not going to worry about the other tenant.
That
All right,
doesn't change anything.
I will live with that for the health, safety, and welfare of Commerce Township residents.
Thank you, Rusty. So
You're
can
welcome.
Deb or whoever, can you amend the motion?
No, make a new one. Make a new one. A whole new one.
Yeah, the motion failed, so we need a new motion.
Go ahead, Rick.
All right, so I'll take Rusty's first motion, the second
My
motion.
My second motion.
Adding this wording with to allow the Apple West Side wall or window sign, I guess, and no monument sign.
At a total on the west side with a total of 256 square feet.
Is that what the number is? Okay, whatever the number is.
Maximum of 256. Does
For-
that
for a
include
window-
the
For a
box?
window sign.
That's a good on the window sign. You're good with that.
I'm good. Does that include the boxing?
Yes.
Okay. Are you
And once
good
again,
with
because
that,
this
Jay?
is unique, I'm not sure if we're going through this exception issue or.
Yeah, no, because in exchange for not having a
Monument sign.
not having a monument sign due to the fact it would be too close to the road for a health, safety, and welfare consideration of Commerce Township and others,
Yes.
residents and others. That's what you wanted to say, right?
Yes.
I could tell.
You
Is there
did
a
have-
second? I need a second.
A second.
Is there discussion?
Are we not concerned with the clause about returning to the building department on this one? Because,
No,
Sure.
that was part of the 3 window sign interpretation that motion's already been settled.
okay, and if they had a tenant or needed a change, they wouldn't.
We'll handle that.
Address
Worry about that
that
in the
when that
future.
day comes.
Yep.
Okay. When you're all done, could you read that back, please?
Okay, so Rusty's first motion is what Rick said. And that's to allow the west window sign and no monument sign. That will be a total on the west side of 256 square feet. And then we went into discussion, so we're good on the window sign, including the boxing. Rusty added, this is unique, the exception issue in exchange for not having the monument sign due to the fact that that would be too close to the road, and it's in consideration of the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Commerce Township.
And visitors.
Say that again?
And visitors.
Okay, got it. Anything else?
Debbie, did you say it was Rusty's first motion or his second
Yeah,
motion?
no, my other motion moved the sign from the north to the east.
Rick, do you recall?
Correct.
We
Yeah,
need to
'cause-
do that one because that one went down 2-2. So we need to put that in.
They both went 2-2.
Both went 2-2, right?
Is the one so allowing the north side.
It is her second motion.
Is that the second one, right? Okay.
Yeah, and
allowing-
the second one allows the,
The north sign to
side.
go to the east side
Yep.
to no more than 200 square feet, and the directional signs for the market and the bistro no more than the 20 square feet as allowed in the ordinance.
So I just
Yeah.
want to, so Roman and Ryan, since this has been a confusing one, I want to make sure we've covered everything and we're good. Clarity.
Ryan's the boss. Ryan's my boss. So if he says so, then that's correct. I think you have got all the nomenclature and the numbers correct and everything that you guys were describing.
Now, I have a question about the market. I know it's organic, but what are we talking about? What's in the market? I'll see it on Monday along with everybody else, but what's in there?
Did we ever take action on that motion?
No, not yet.
No.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting punchy. All right. I had a second from Bob. Would you like us to read it back at anybody?
yeah, can we just read it back just so we have,
Sure.
just so we're all clear that we have everything in it?
Okay, so we're going back to Rusty's second motion, and that allows the sign to be moved from the north to the east. And as we go into what Rick mentioned, to allow the west window sign and no monument sign with a total on the west side of 256 square feet. And that is the window sign. The directional signs, as Rusty had in her second motion, allows for the market and bistro directional signs that are each no more than 20 square feet as allowed in the ordinance. And then Rusty explained the exception issue with the health, safety, and welfare. In exchange for not having a monument sign due to the fact that it's too close to the road, in consideration of the health, safety, and welfare of Commerce Township residents and visitors.
And do we have a condition in there that there's no wall sign on the north? Since we're moving it to the east.
You got it. No wall sign on the north. Yeah, that was in that second motion. Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure that was all in there.
That's a great motion, guys. It only took
And
three of
there's
us.
there's no lettering on the banners.
No lettering on the banners. Got it.
So, okay, I think.
So
we've
in
got-
total, guys, we have made two variances. One, moving the wall sign from the north to the east, and two, allowing the apple to go on the west side in exchange for no monument sign. Are we agreed on that's what we've all agreed on? Does that sound right?
Sounds right.
Yep.
Okay, then a chair will call for the vote. I will start with Rick,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Bill,
No.
Rusty, yes. Okay, so we have now passed this. It only took us almost 3 hours to do it, but we did it. And well done, everybody. But I'm excited. And Ryan, we all wish you the very best. We remember you from 6 years ago when you came for the original variances to build the building. So congratulations. And I am positive you and all of your loved ones are going to do the happy dance on Sunday night.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And I look forward to
Congratulations,
seeing you there.
Thank you
Yes.
all very much.
Thank you very much. And thanks
It's always
for
a pleasure appearing in front of you. It was a very nice conversation and discussion today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Okay. All
One
right,
comment
gentlemen,
I'd
don't
like
go
to make-
anywhere.
I can make
We've
one
got more,
comment to Deb.
fellows.
One comment to Deb is that after this, DDA director should be a piece of cake.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have more to do. The next item on the agenda is the Zoning Board of Appeals bylaws. They have been sent to us and they have been marked up by the blue and the yellow and the red, so everybody could see everything. Is there anything that anybody would like to make a comment about? If so, please tell us what page.
Hey, Dave, do you get, I
Yes.
didn't find, from our Tuesday board meeting talking about having ZBA members must be residents of the township. Is that in here?
It is not, because this draft was created before that Tuesday night discussion. I guess I'd have to think about that, Rick. Is that a ZBA decision, or is that more of a township board policy decision?
I know that was what we were talking about, but I'm not clear myself if each board gets to make that decision or if the township board, because the township board doesn't approve this. It's just.
No, but the township board appoints.
Right.
You're
I
the
understand.
appointer.
But the question that came about from a member on another board that is an active participant and has moved out of the community and wanted to know if they could stay on the board. And that's what prompted that issue, the discussion with the township board. And the township board's feeling pretty much, other than in the DDA, which has very specific state statutes dealing with that, was that, yes, we wanted people to be township residents. Now, we understand from an appointing standpoint, we can handle that. But if someone were to move out of the township, that was the question.
Rick, it also, the state law, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, which establishes how you create and maintain membership of a zoning board of appeals, specifically says that the members of a zoning board of appeals, other than the member that's the representative of the planning commission, so in this case, Mr. McKeever, all those members must be electors within the municipality. So really the state law is already requiring what the board is wanting to do here.
Okay.
So in that sense, I don't see the harm in including it in the bylaws, but it's one of those things where it goes without saying based on state law.
Okay. Thanks for checking
Okay.
into that.
Okay, anybody have anything else they would like to say?
Yes.
What
On page 2,
Page 2. I got to turn the page. Give me a second.
section 3.1, procedure,
Yes.
in the blue text, I
Yes.
believe instead of scheduled ZBA meetings, that should probably say special. I mentioned that to Dave and Paula.
He did. We talked to Bob earlier today. I think he's right. I want to verify that with Hans. because this is, all these changes are verbiage that the township attorney created. But I'm guessing that Bob is right, that that's intended to say regular or special ZBA meetings.
Bob, you're good. You're good.
He's showing off that he actually read it.
Yeah. Well, I did, but I didn't pick up on that. Good for you. That's
Good.
why we need all of us. May I
And-
ask a question? Are we
Sure.
voting on this?
Well, every year in January, the ZBA looks at the bylaws and decides whether those are the bylaws that you want to go with for another year. Typically, we don't make a lot of changes, maybe one change here or there. This is obviously a significant change that dovetailed nicely with our January meeting anyway. This is a significant change that the township is making to the bylaws and rules of procedure for all the boards and commissions. The Planning Commission already did this. And so this is something that's intended to bring the bylaws into compliance with the recent changes to the state's Open Meetings Act and also with the township's, what do we call it? The procedures for electronic meetings and attendance. So
I'd
this
like
is
to suggest that
This is-
Rick brought up a very interesting point, and so did Bob, that we table our vote on this until March and give the township time to address it and give Hans time to address the correction. Would that be acceptable?
It's acceptable. I think that the correction that Mr. Missilly found is the right correction and I think can be done. I don't, other than that, I don't know of any pressing reason why it should be tabled.
Yeah, I would just vote on it. If it turns out that it's wrong, we can bring it up again.
You can't,
All right.
other than that one correction, I don't know that, there's nothing, I don't know of anything being
All
wrong.
right. Bob, would you make a motion then to accept these with a correction in 3.1 to change the word scheduled to special?
I will. However, I did notice that the change we made in 2019 is not reflected on these bylaws in section 3.3, item C.
The township attorney inadvertently used the year-old bylaws to make his edits. So we will be sure that these changes are made to the latest and greatest version of the bylaws.
And I will be, after this, I know he's listening, hey Larry, is to talk to the supervisor to see if we can get our alternate back in place, because it would have been really helpful for tonight.
It sure would have.
Absolutely.
All right, then let's go ahead and approve these. But Bob, would you please make those, would you do it, please, and make those two items known in the minutes?
Yep. I
Thank-
move to approve the bylaws with the change to section 3.1 to change the verbiage from regular or scheduled ZBA meetings to regular or special ZBA meetings. And the correction to section 3.3, section C about alternate members, where they are required to attend regular meetings. I believe we removed the part as determined by chairperson.
We did. That's correct.
Mhm.
Or
Okay, is there a second to that?
support, second.
Okay, very good. All those in favor, I'm going to start with Rick,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Rusty, aye. It has passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, other matters to come before the board. Do we have any?
I do. It's because of what happened tonight. I will actually reach out to George Weber, and as long as you're, obviously you can hear what I'm saying now. I think tonight showed me there's a opportunity that if we have, although it's very rare, but if we have an applicant that is willing to give up a monument sign for an additional wall sign, I'd like the planning commission to at least look at that and see if that would be something that they'd be willing to change our ordinance to allow that. So I'd like if you can start that process or consider whatever's, if I need multiple.
To take a look
members,
at, to
yeah,
take a look.
to have the planning commission look at that item.
Okay,
We can do that. We've got a series of changes that we want to make to our sign regulations, and we need to get those done, and we can include something to that effect with those.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Other matters to come before the board. Larry Gray, it is our pleasure to have you with us this evening. We're delighted, and we wish you the very best in the coming years, and we look forward to working with you. All right, is there any correspondence for us? All right, planning director's report. We're dying to hear what you have to tell us.
Just a summary of some of the bigger projects that have come before the Planning Commission and the Township Board in the last couple of months. Mr. McKeever mentioned the 84 lumber project finally got to something close to the finish line. They had to get a conditional rezoning approved, which they were able to do. And then they came back to the Planning Commission with their site plan and that got approved. So hopefully by this time next year, you'll see an 84 lumber store where we currently have an outdoor boat storage yard. The southwest corner of Glengarry and Wixom Roads is currently a undeveloped 35-acre property that will soon be a developed property by Pulte. They're doing a new neighborhood called Oak Hills. It will be 78 single-family homes on that property. They did it as with the cluster option, which, as the name implies, the lots are clustered together in an effort to preserve open space. So smaller lots, but the trade-off being more open space around the perimeter of the site. Two projects that are gonna come before the Planning Commission on Monday evening. One is the proposed townhomes, also by Pulte, on the east side of Martin Road, just across from Township Hall on the property that used to be the driving range. They are proposing 103 attached townhomes on that property. They also had to do a conditional rezoning to get the zoning they needed. That conditional rezoning was approved. So now they have to come back to the Planning Commission for their site plan. That's going to happen on Monday night. Also on Monday night is the project that I think I've mentioned to you before, which is the Reserve at Crystal Lake, which is 203 new single-family homes out on what we call the gravel pit property. So that property is about 160 acres, with including a 40-acre man-made lake. So they want to do a lakefront community out there. They're doing it as a PUD, planned unit development. So that PUD is going to have its formal public hearing with the Planning Commission on Monday. The property that we call the Fetter property, which is on the west side of Haggerty, just north of 14 Mile, just north of the plaza, the Newberry Plaza that has the Kroger and the Panera in it. That property is likely to move ahead as a PUD with retail out along the Haggerty Road frontage and apartments to the rear. The unit count is still in flux. But something in the neighborhood of 180 apartments, luxury apartments they're calling them, on that undeveloped property. And then the last thing I'll mention is that the township has been working with Oakland County on their restaurant relief program. Oakland County took some of their Federal CARES Act money and then also contributed money from the county's general fund to get out to restaurants to try to keep them afloat during the pandemic and the shutdowns. That money can be used for a number of different things, but primarily for outdoor seating, furniture and heaters and igloos and greenhouses and these things that you see going up in the parking lots of many restaurants. So the township actually was allotted some of that equipment and we were able to distribute that to the restaurants. And now the next phase of that we're just starting with the county is a reimbursement program. So the county or the county is going to allocate to the township a certain amount of dollars. And then restaurants can come with their receipts for the various equipment that they've had to buy to get through COVID. And they would be eligible for reimbursement for at least some of that. I don't know if there will be enough dollars to reimburse everyone for everything, but it's a decent amount of money that can be reimbursed toward the restaurant owners.
That's wonderful.
Those are the things that I know of that are going on, but I'm happy to answer any other questions about anything anyone wants to know about out there.
I have two questions. For one, I just wanted to say how happy I was to see the banners that Barrington put up about now renting, that those came down. Jay, good job. And the second question, anything about Hillers? I get asked that all the time.
I don't have any news about Hillers. That's a property that there's a ground lease that the landlord really has no motivation to renegotiate the terms of that ground lease because Kroger's obligated to pay it, whether they've got someone in there or not. Kroger would love to have someone take that ground lease off their hands, but so far they haven't found who that someone should be. I think that ground lease goes through 2025. So unfortunately, unless Kroger finds someone who wants to take it off their hands before then, that building might stay empty for longer. I mean, the market for retail space is not great to begin with right now. So I'll keep you posted if we hear anything.
Any road commission news to share?
Road Commission news.
Anything in commerce?
The one that came up relative to this project up at the gravel pit is I'll just say the goofy intersection of Wixom, Duck Lake, and Sleeth Roads, where there's kind of that double traffic signal. That is going to be reconstructed, they think, in the year 2024 with a roundabout. So that's going to be a significant project over on the western edge of the township. Other than that, I can't think of any major road projects. Union Lake Road, it's going to be next year. Union Lake Road is going to get shut down for a number of months while they replace the culvert under Union Lake Road, just south of Wise Road, where Sally's Bar was and where Matter of Taste is. So that's the overflow for Union Lake to flow into the Union Lake Golf Course on the other side of the road. That culvert is undersized and is failing. So they're going to have to replace that. And that means the road's going to be shut down for probably a few months in this summer.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody have anything else they'd like to add or share? If not, I'm going to say good night to everybody. Thank you so much. I can't remember having a meeting this long in years. So you all did a great job. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all in March.
Not yet, Rusty. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that part. Thank you. I think I'm getting tired. Well,
Second.
I wish everybody good luck getting a vaccine, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. And you
I
have
need
a second.
Second.
All those in favor, Bob,
Roll
Aye.
call.
Rick,
Yes, aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Rusty. Yes, we did it. Thanks, everybody. Good night,
night.
and thank you all. And
Have a
thank
good night,
you,
everybody.
Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
Jacob,
Yeah, have a
thank
good night,
you for
guys.
everything. Thanks
Of
a lot.
course.
All right, goodbye, everybody. Thank you.